Shri Advaita Gadadhara.
Hare Krishna, Dandava Pranams. Welcome to our Bhaktivaibhava lesson on Unit 7, Lesson 5. Well, last class. Please kindly join me with the Mangala Charana prayers from wherever you are. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurum Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayan Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavanishvare Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Pancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Vipiyusha Sarva Vedhaika Satphala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikpradam Sarva Bhagavata Prana Shrimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kali Dhvanto Ditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishna Namastume Madeka Bhando Matsanging Madguru Mam Mahadana Mam Nishtaraka Madhvagya Madananda Namastute Asadu Sadhu Tadayim Ati Nichochatakara Hona Muncha Kadachimam Premna Ritkanta Yospura Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're going to begin today from verse 36. We already explained yesterday, but I thought just to go back a little bit because it's such an important verse, and but we're gonna be revising the whole Chatusloki anyway. Okay, so but we'll begin with this. Etavat eva jigyasyan tatva jigyasunatmanaha amvaya vyatire kavyam yatsyat sarvatra sarvada. A person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space, and time, and both directly and indirectly. Okay, so if you remember, basically the Chatusloki is the Bhagavatam in a nutshell. When you, Prabhupada uses the terminology, like a nutshell means that you have something small, something very small, but which has a lot of content, a lot of, information. And it explains the whole philosophy of the Srimad Bhagavatam is condensed within 4 verses, which presents the whole Vaishnava theology and basically explains what is the reality. And the reality is, and the reality is Krishna. And the Acharyas has given us a formula by which we can understand reality, and that formula is playing in 3 tattvas: Sambandha tattva, Abhideya tattva, and Prayojana tattva. And in the explanation of these verses, they have divided those verses into these 3 tattvas. We explained yesterday how the first 2 verses of the Chatusloki establish that God is a person, that the absolute truth is a person, and also explains that there is a predominated I, which is Lord Brahma, whom the Lord is speaking, and there is the predominator I, which is Krishna himself speaking the Chatusloki. And also explains this Sambandha Tattva, this Sambandha Jnana, the 2nd verse of Chatusloki explains what is reality, what is the vision of someone who is understood the first verse. The first verse establishes how Krishna is everything. And not only Krishna is everything, but that we see, but even when what we see disappears, he remains. And before this thing, this cosmic manifestation, he was there. And he was not alone. He was there with his paraphernalia, with his devotees. And then when this whole manifestation ceases to exist, what remains will also be I. So it also helps us understand about the temporary nature of the material world. Jiva Goswami says that when we understand the temporary nature of the material world, that helps us to regulate the mind. It makes the mind peaceful to understand how everything is temporary. But actually the Lord is eternal and his kingdom is eternal, and that's where we belong. So now that's Sambandha. Now the 3rd verse explains what is the ultimate goal, and the ultimate goal is Prema Bhakti. The ultimate goal is to be able to attain, to establish a relationship with the Lord by which we see the Lord everywhere. One who has actually realized that Krishna is everything that exists and is not bewildered by the illusory potency, seeing things disconnected from the Lord. And he's, basically, his eyes are tinged by the salve of love. Then the Lord himself, he explains that he enters into the heart of that devotee and reveals from within his heart the spiritual world, his pastimes, his relationship, everything. And the devotee who has such love, he sees him everywhere and in everything. And that is considered the highest experience. There is nothing higher to attain than having that personal relationship with the Lord, with love and devotion. And that's the goal of the Vedas. That's the Prayojana Tattva. We may think we may have so many needs, but our needs vary according to time, place, circumstances. We may have the needs of the body, the needs of the mind, emotional needs, physical needs, financial needs, you name it, social needs. But what is the need of the soul? The need of the soul is that prema, pretty, is love. And it's just not love for the temporary, things of this world, but it's love for God. So now in verse 36, it was explained that one must search for this everywhere, in all time, at all times, all places, in all circumstances, both directly and indirectly. And we explained yesterday what directly and indirectly means. So I cannot go through the whole thing again. But okay, that's the Chatusloki, right? So let's go through some aspects of the purport. I do not remember if we read this quote, but even if we didn't, so here, this is from Adilila Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Actually, we did read it, but we'll read it again. Those who are serious about knowledge of the transcendental world, which is far beyond the material cosmic creation, must approach a bona fide spiritual master to learn the science both directly and indirectly. One must learn both the means to approach the desired destination and the hindrances to such progress. The spiritual master knows how to regulate the habits of a neophyte disciple, and therefore, a serious student must learn the science in all its aspects from him. So, first instruction, we need a guru. We need someone who is going to show us the path. And this is one point that Prabhupada explained in verse 934. Prabhupada explained that you cannot remove the darkness without the light of the sun. We cannot get out of Maya with Maya by empiric means in other ways. We need mercy. We need the Lord to reveal. And the Lord, out of his causeless mercy, he sends his representative to impart knowledge, to give us the torchlight of knowledge so that we can actually make distinctions between what is reality and what is illusion, what is absolute and what is relative. And according to what is being explained here, he will also show us what to do and what to avoid. What are the positive injunctions and what are the restrictions? Basically, there are the advantages of, like we were discussing before, the advantages of devotional service and the disadvantages of devotional service. That verse was explained that, on the path, we will have to regulate, like Prabhupada is saying here, regulate our habits. And if you see Prabhupada, any other process, will, I have come across many people from other faiths, but if you use as a common denominator for followers of different paths, like we can say that Prabhupada's followers, their whole life is practically, engage in following the process, from the moment that we get up, how we eat, how we sleep, what we do, it's all. And that's the expertise of the Acharya. Prabhupada design our lives in such a way that we fix our minds on Krishna. Ultimately, our process is to fix the mind on Krishna. Okay? And this is the essence of and Krishna is explaining. Remember that this is Krishna speaking directly, and he is saying that one must do this if you want to get prema. Okay, so here are the words Anvaya Vyatire Kavyam, directly and indirectly suggest that one must learn the process of devotional service in its two aspects. One must directly execute the process of devotional service and indirectly avoid the impediments to progress. Clear, right? Okay. Now, another very important aspect of this verse, Prabhupada commented extensively on this verse. It's one of the longest, the second longest purport on the Bhagavatam. And it really, you can say that Prabhupada took this verse to heart. His mission his mood are very much like illustrating, or they are a demonstration of what this verse, what Krishna is saying in this verse. Okay, so I'll read from here. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms that devotional service to the Lord, the cult of Bhagavad Dharma, which is now being spread as the Hare Krishna movement, can be spread in every country to every person in any condition of life and in all circumstances. Bhagavad Dharma does not restrict pure devotees to the Hindu community. A pure devotee is above a Brahmana. Therefore, it is not incompatible to offer the sacred thread to devotees in Europe, America, Australia, Japan, Canada, and so on. And, the Bhagavatam is establishing the superiority of bhakti. And one of the reasons why bhakti is superior to any other process is because sarvatra sarvada, is because it can be performed by anyone, anytime, anywhere. If you want to perform karma, jnana, yoga, this cannot be performed by anyone, anytime, anywhere. There are restrictions. There are also qualifications. You cannot do yoga unless you have a physical condition, unless you can fix your mind. You cannot do jnana also unless you have actually renounced the gratification of the senses. You cannot do karma unless you have a facility to perform those sacrifices, those rituals. But when it comes to bhakti, anyone can do bhakti. Even an animal can do bhakti. We explained before. There are descriptions in Bhagavatam about how Parikshit Maharaj, how Prahlad Maharaj, how they perform bhakti within the womb. How a child performed bhakti, Dhruva Maharaj. How an animal performed bhakti, Gajendra. How a demon performed bhakti, Chitraketu. Not Chitraketu, Vitrasura. So anyone, anytime, anywhere can do bhakti. This bhakti is is a very inclusive process. And therefore, it is considered the highest because not only it is available for everyone, and anyone can take part in it, but also it gives you the highest reward. So this is the beauty of bhakti, and it's illustrated in this verse. Devotional service to the Lord is open for all. No need to seek qualified candidates for discharging devotional service. Let them be either well-behaved or ill-trained. Let them be either learned or fools. Let them be either grossly attached or in the renounced order of life. Let them be liberated souls or desirous of salvation. Let them be inexpert in the discharge of devotional service or expert in the same. All of them can be elevated to the supreme position by discharging devotional service under the proper guidance. And that was Prabhupada's mood. Prabhupada's mood was very inclusive, and he succeeded because of this. He went to the West and he was preaching to, the lowest people. He was in the Bowery, they were all acid heads, like alcoholics, all kinds of, outcasts. Not just from the, Hindu caste perspective, but just even from the Western perspective. But Prabhupada was, he was seeing the soul, and he engaged these devotees, these souls. Some of them, they are now gurus. They were hippies before. He was able to, he implemented this principle, and we should embrace this principle, that it's not exclusive. Everyone who actually takes up this process will become purified, will progress in Krishna consciousness. Okay. So now Tadangan, this is the mean of perfection. This is Avideya, this is Sadhana Bhakti. Okay, those who wish to attain the most confidential goal described in the previous verse must always search for it with one-pointed determination and in all time, place, and circumstance. The disciple should inquire about this from his guru. Then, both by directly following the rules and by indirectly avoiding the prohibitions, one should practice sadhana bhakti aiming at love of God. As advised before by Srila Shukadev Goswami, Shrotavya kirtitavyascha dhyeya puyas chanityada. You remember that verse, right? With one pointed attention, which one should constantly hear, remember, worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And above all other means of perfection, we should constantly chant the holy name, following the footsteps of the previous authorities. Harinama Nukirtanam. Okay, so this is our process. Our process is to fix the mind on Krishna. How do we fix our minds on Krishna? Is by performing sadhana bhakti. Of all the processes, sadhana bhakti means a practice that helps us to achieve sadhya. What is the sadhya? Sadhya is Bhava Bhakti, is to develop love for God. How do we develop love for God? Sadhana Bhakti means to utilize the senses and the mind, fixing the senses and the mind in the service of the Lord. And of all the practice of sadhana bhakti, which one is the most potent? Is chanting of Hare Krishna. Okay, so we are moving ahead. That was just a little recap from yesterday. So now we're gonna do this, I believe. Okay, Asaf Cohen. How will a deaf and blind person perform bhakti? Okay. Can anyone reply to Asaf about this? How will a deaf and blind person perform bhakti? It's not that difficult, is it? Taking prasad. Take prasad. Okay, Murli Manohar, thank you. By taking prasad. Yeah. Can he do some service? Yeah, he can do some service.
By chanting.
Huh? Yeah.
Chanting.
How could Brahma meditate without seeing the Lord personally? He was inspired from the heart by the Lord. And revelation took place. Okay, so let's go ahead with this preaching from Chatusloki. I want you to be involved here. So if it's okay with you, could you please unmute yourself and tell me points? You know, now the recap comes from Chatusloki Bhagavatam. Any points that you find it useful for preaching? You can write them on the chat box, and I want everyone to give something. It's a few people, haven't heard from them through the whole unit. Please participate. Okay? Yamashtami Prabhu, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
I had a question. I wonder if I could ask that before we could start this.
If it's gonna break the moment, the train of thought that we're going, better if you leave it for later, because
it's on the last verse, but it might break.
Okay, go ahead. If it's the last verse, yeah.
So it's just it's an interesting way that Prabhupada's translated. A person who is searching after the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to this in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. So everything makes sense to me, but to search for it up to this, what is this?
Prema?
Huh?
Prema Bhakti.
Search for it up to this.
Basically, that's the ultimate goal. And you know, the what you call it, you have to, that's the ultimate goal. Until you have attained that goal, you have to search for it. You have to try everything. It's not like, okay, I reach this level of, you know, I've got over an artha nibriti, I'm comfortable, you know. and I slow down, or I pass, nishta. No, it's up until the level of attaining that revelation from the Lord.
So that this is referring to the
Previous verse.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Got it.
Okay. Gopal gonna try it. To engage in self-realization is a responsibility of every living entity developed in consciousness. Okay, fine. It'll be nice when you give the point is according to which verse, which verse you're referring to. Dineshwara Krishna Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Regarding this Chatur Sloki Bhagavatam, I have one question. I tried to search for lectures that Srila Prabhupada gave on these verses, but I couldn't find any. The only one I could come across was Canto 2, 938. Any particular reason that you know of why Srila Prabhupada didn't lecture on these important verses?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know if that was, I think someone who will, like Harisori Prabhu, may be able to answer the question with really kind of authority, because he was traveling with Prabhupada, and I don't think he purposely avoided lecturing on those verses. I believe that as he was traveling, different temples were in different sections of the Bhagavatam, and he was giving classes on those verses. It is also true that at certain points, he will choose a particular section of the Bhagavatam, like he did the Bhagavad Dharma series in New Vrindavan. He was, giving classes from chapter 2. Actually, I believe that's the section of the Bhagavatam he has given the most classes, in second chapter of the first canto. So I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
okay.
Is that okay?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a few points here in the chat box. Let's hear from Asaf first.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me fine?
Very well.
So my point is from verse 33. The point is that Prabhupada makes a point that impersonalists argue that the Lord is impersonal and therefore he does not do any activities. But then Prabhupada's point is very clear about it's just like the king. The king does all his activities in the kingdom without going personally. He has his ministers and his servants. So similarly, we can easily argue that the king stays in his personal quarters. Everything is conducted by his power. And similarly, Krishna, he's God, he's personal. And when he's in his personal place, in his abode, then he has his own activities, which are very intimate activities. So I'm bringing this point as a preaching point, like you asked, because to counteract the impersonalist.
Yeah, it is a very powerful point, and this is one of the main points. The Lord is a person. He's saying aham 3 times. I, and the fact that he's speaking to Lord Brahma, it shows that there is not only him, but there is also Lord Brahma. It's not just himself, right? So it's not that the Lord doesn't do anything. He doesn't have to do anything, but he can do whatever he wants. The analogy of the king is there given by the acharyas, because the question may be raised when we hear this verse. Krishna says that I alone existed before the creation. What you see now is also I, and what remains, it will also be only be I. Someone may wonder, where is Krishna alone, right? But then Jiva Goswami, he says that when you speak of the king, for example, you understand that the king, it means the king and his retinue, his all the people that are with him. I say the king is coming. The king is not coming alone, right? He's coming with all the entourage. So similarly, when Krishna is saying I, it doesn't refer to just himself, but it refers to himself, his abode, his associates. That's the metaphor used, if that makes sense. But yeah, very important point. Krishna is a person. He's speaking He's saying I. Okay? Vira Gopal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, my pranams. So this is from 9 to 936. The essence of it is that to develop a relationship with Krishna, one needs to serve. I think to develop a relationship with anyone can be done by a mode of service. And Prabhupada says in the purport that the Lord can be served by all the senses or even simply by the mind. And this actually is very poignant for me. I was relating to a lecture by His Holiness Haladhar Swami. He was saying that, you know, we go in the temple and we bow down, and through the day we maybe bow down 10 times or something like this. And over the life period, we bow down hundreds and thousands of times. And you don't think that Krishna is not observing this, that, you know, you go to a person and you say, sir, I'm so grateful to you once. So you say it twice and his heart melts. There's a change of heart. He says, don't think that Krishna is not watching you. You are doing this throughout your life. So, and this is connected to the service that, you know, you can serve him very simply, like that.
Yes, very nice. Thank you. And it's important when you spoke about the mind. I thought that also the point there as well with sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti involves engaging the mind. You may be doing some service, but the value of that service is multiplied when the mind is engaged. Like you can be doing art even, you know, some or puja, and you may be thinking of, you know, some argument that you have with someone the day before or what you need to do during the day. But, you know, like a tivrena bhakti, like, you know, like Bhagavatam explains that power, you know, that pure bhakti is when the mind is engaged in trying to please the Lord. So, but going back to your point also, that this is the beauty of bhakti, that with any of the senses, like the question was, what if someone is deaf and blind? Can he do service? Yeah, because you still have other senses you can engage in service of the Lord, like the tongue. You can use your hands to do some physical work, any of the senses. And another aspect of it, also the beauty about bhakti is that you don't require anything. You know, you don't require huge, like in karma, you may require the ingredients for the sacrifice. You may require the priest. You may require the proper time to do the yagya, to do the sacrifice. But with bhakti, you can offer even a leaf. You can offer a fruit anytime. And also, if you don't have any of those things, you can do it mentally. This is Krishna's mercy. And this is the glory of bhakti. And it's accessible and available for everyone, anywhere. Okay, thank you. Mahavira Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Actually, for the preaching purpose, actually, when we begin our life as a student, we feel that, okay, we have to pass the school, and then we feel that we have to get a degree, and then we have to get a job or do some kind of business, we will become happy. So this illusory thinking is always there in the mind, okay, let me complete this and I will become happy. And everybody thinks that way, that, okay, earning more money will make one happy. So that more money means more sense gratification, and more sense gratification means getting enveloped by the illusory energy and increasing our material bondage. So that kind of understanding, if we have from the beginning, from the stage of Gurukul in the education system, then we understand that how the importance is there of controlling the mind and senses and putting it in the service of the Lord. Because the system is...
Before you go on, please, can you connect it to the Chatusloki first of all? So
Yeah.
we're clear, because otherwise we're just waiting. What is the connection with Chatusloki?
Yeah, Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, it is saying that the whole material, 9.36, it is saying the whole material existence, excuse me, has sprung up because of sense gratification desires based principally on the sex desire, and the result is that in spite of all advancement of knowledge, the final goal of all activities of the living entities is sense gratification. But here is the real goal of life, and everyone should know it by inquiries put before a bona fide spiritual master, expert in the science of Bhakti Yoga, or from a living personality of Bhagavatam life.
Okay, so it's nice. What you're saying is nice, but truth, truth spoken concisely is true eloquency. Could you just give us the same thing in 2 sentences?
Yes, yes,
I will
Prabhuji.
normally ask for 1 sentence, but I'm giving you 2, okay?
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. We think that we will get real happiness by sense gratification, but learning from Bhagavatam is that we have to satisfy the senses of the Lord to become really satisfied.
Okay, it's vague, it's good, is the answer, but you could say actually, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, the ultimate attainment is love of God.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for refining my statements. Thank you very much.
Okay, I mean, I hope it's well taken. It doesn't make sense. It's just
No, it is well taken.
Yeah.
It is much improved version of what I said, and it is a concise form also.
Yeah. It's just like, what is Bhagavatam presented? Is it heavenly planets? Is it going back home, back to Godhead? Is it Brahma Yoti? Is it like getting a good wife? Is it good health? No, Bhagavatam is clearly establishing that the ultimate attainment is prema, and when that happens, the Lord enters your heart. The bhakti in your heart acts like a magnet. So the Lord is attracted to your bhakti, and He enters into your heart and sits there in the lotus of your bhava. And when we attain that is the highest attainment. That's the supreme absolute truth, the supreme creator, the supreme Akila Rasamrita Murti, the fountainhead of all rasas, of all emotions. He comes and sits down in your heart.
Yes, Prabhuji.
And you're both bound by a tie of affection. That's what is being, explained in the Chatusloki. Rasekar Prabhu. We'll take one more after him.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Verse number 36. Abhijay. This means that only we have to do devotional service. It should be started from Kamal Archita Pragyo Dharma Kamal Archita Pragyo Dharma, just like Prahlad Maharaj has said that we should start with devotional service because that is the aim of life. We should start it at the very early stage. We should not waste our time.
Okay, don't waste a moment. This is the topmost priority. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go back to the chat box and I'm going to read a few from there. Amala Manjari Matai. The Lord is unlimited. Yes, good. That in itself is such a piece of knowledge, right? The Lord is unlimited. There is nothing else but the Lord. And no one can know Him completely, okay? But one's advancement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord can make one eligible to know the Lord. Nice. That's 932, which is not Chatusloki, but still that point is expressed through the Chatusloki, but you're taking it from the purport of 932. Nice point. Thank you. Okay, devotional service can be done in any circumstances. Nothing can hinder our bhakti. We will be confronted with material situations, and sometimes we may feel like, I cannot go on like this. This is too much. It's too difficult, or this or that, or some big challenge may happening into our lives. Hopefully not. But if it does, we should remember this point that, anyone, the bhakti is not hindered by any material circumstances. It's not hindered by COVID. It's not hindered by you losing your job. It's not hindered by any calamity that may come, that may happen. It's not hindered by any success either. Sometimes success is worse than calamity. The temptation is even more difficult to overcome than actual, the suffering that comes with being in this material world. Gopala Ganashraya, the highest perfection stage of life is one should hear about His glories, one should chant about His glories, and one should always remember His glories. And this is an important point also, that, if we think about, what is the best, what is, and this is the teaching of the Bhagavatam, okay? That what is the best engagement? What is the topmost dharma? In other words, what is the topmost occupation? What is the best thing I can do today? Is June 12 or 13 of 2021. What is the best thing I can do with my life? Engage in devotional service. Now, tomorrow, and for the rest of eternity. There is no higher engagement. Vinay, in order to get Prema Bhakti, we need to develop lolium. Yes. Prabhupada gives analogy: sun can be seen only by the factual light of the sun. Similarly, one cannot speculate about the Lord. Nice, thank you. I like when the points are also like, specific. This is very specific from the Chatusloki. So similarly, one cannot speculate about the Lord. One can see and understand the Lord only through the light of God. That is, if God reveals himself through scriptures and sadhus. Very good. Srimad Nitai, second verse, seeing every action as an action of the Lord and his plan behind everything. So wonderful. This is the Vaishnava Siddhanta. When we understand that, nothing takes place without the hand of the Lord. We may be going through some, internal turmoil. Any of you going through some internal turmoil at the moment? Raise your hands if that's the case. Some internal conflict. Yeah, let me put into the gallery so I can see how many are with. Oh, no, not many. Eh? You're all okay. Shanti. Okay, that's good. So you don't have anything going in your mind right now which is taking a lot of your thoughts. Are you fighting with it? Is it only me? Okay, it's only me then. So then I don't need to speak about this. Eh?
No, Prabhuji, I am fighting with a lot of things.
Okay. We have one honest person. The rest are advanced, pure Vaishnavas with a peaceful mind. Okay, jokes apart. We are conflicted with situations. The material energy is what you call it is. What is the word used in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita? Anyway, we become bewildered. Karpanya sopa hata swabhavan. What is that? Prabhupada, this is a particular verse, a particular word that is eluding me right now. But we become bewildered. But one way that we can overcome these things is that we can see that actually this situation is arranged by the Lord. This is Krishna's mercy upon me. He is teaching me something. He wants me to grow. He the reason why I'm disturbed by this is because I am not mature enough in Krishna consciousness yet, and therefore I'm disturbed. And Krishna is giving me an opportunity to expose that immaturity, that lack of, a depth in my spiritual life, so that, if I continue, and sometimes we don't know what the answer is to that issue, but we show our sincerity by just continuing with the process, and gradually things become clearer and we become purified. So going back to the point that Prabhu is making is that, yes, seeing everything as the mercy of the Lord, because there is nothing else. There is nothing else but Krishna's mercy. If you want to see it like that, of course, if you want to see something else, you'll see something else. And this is also a point of the Chatusloki Bhagavatam, that we perceive the world through the lenses of our hearts, through the lenses of our minds. If we have lust in our hearts, if we have greed, if we have anger, if we are, fault finders, that's what we'll see. But if we have love, if Krishna enters the heart and we have actually pure love for him, we will only see him. That's Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, his father was trying to kill him. What kind of test is that? He was giving him poison and he was taking the as prasad. Prahlad wasn't asking for protection. I mean, can you imagine that level of Krishna consciousness? Because even in that situation, if one just asks for protection and takes full shelter of the Lord, I mean, that's like high. But Prahlad goes beyond that. Prahlad goes to the point that he's not even asking for help. He's not seeing any danger. When his father is trying to kill him, he's not seeing danger. He's seeing that of the Lord's mercy. That's how he's, such an elevated soul. So all this, the Bhagavatam is teaching us this, how to actually see Krishna's hand, how to see Krishna in everything, how to see Krishna's plan, and introspect and see what my material situation is, how that material situation is dictating me in terms of how I make progress in my Krishna consciousness. What is it that the Lord wants me to do in this situation so that I actually become closer to him? Do I become a better devotee? That's how we see it, through this lens. But what the material mind does, what is that the material mind does? It tends to divide. We see things separate from God. We don't see the hands of God in the problem. We don't see the hand of God in the challenge. We're in Maya. The expert devotee, he's able to see how the environment is favorable for my Krishna consciousness. Albert Einstein raised this question, that was in the times of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And I think they discussed it actually amongst Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and his disciples. I seem to remember at least one of his disciples talking about this. And Albert Einstein, he raised the question, is the universe favorable? Of course, I don't think the frame of reference was Krishna consciousness, but he raised a question. It's an interesting question. Is the universe favorable or not? Are we living in an environmentally friendly place or not? And what is the answer? The answer is yes. Krishna is, but we need to have the eyes to see it. That's Krishna consciousness. Not that we complain, I cannot get this together, and this happened always like this, and people don't want support, don't help me, and I don't get the support I want, and blah, 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 blah. And I didn't get like this, and it's the blame game. Blame. That's not the devotee. The devotee sees everything with, like connected with the Lord. And Prabhupada says that this is the expert electrician. The expert electrician, he will use the same energy, which is electricity, to produce heat and cold. But it's the same energy. So similarly, the devotee, whatever situation comes to him, by the way he responds to that situation, he's able to make that situation uplift him, move him forward, not putting him down. Gopala Ganashrai, when there is some disease, 23 more messages, That's good. I'm happy that we got a lot from this Chatusloki. When there is some disease in the eyes may be cured to see properly. Plucking out the eyes is no treatment. Similarly, the whole material disease is based on the process of sense gratification, and liberation from the disease condition is re-engagement of the senses to see the beauty of the Lord, hear his glories, and act on his account. Okay. That's actually not Chatusloki 939. It's not Chatusloki, but the point is included there, definitely. Okay, misconceiving one thing for another thing is called illusion. Yes. I'm going to move ahead, but Javira Prabhu already gave something. Okay, Mani Gopal, the form of the Lord as seen by Brahma existed before the creation, and the material manifestation with all the ingredients and agents of material creation are also energetic expansions of the Lord. And after the exhibition of the Lord, you see, if you put it in your own words, it means you have understood it. Copy and paste is good, but you have to give your own words, okay? So what are you trying to tell us, Mani Gopal? You please write it down, further down, please. We need to practice to see everything in connection with Krishna, precise. Then automatically we are in Yoga Maya, otherwise with Mahamaya. Very good. Lord is the predominated I, and Brahma is the predominated I. Srila Prabhupada uses the analogy, Father gets Son analogy. All are same in one sense, human beings, whereas they're different. Anyway, the point is clear. I'm not sure what you remember the second part, but yeah, okay. There is the predominated I and the predominated I. There is Nityo, Nityanam, Chetanas, Chetananam. Okay? There is a supreme eternal, there is a supremely conscious, who is supreme, and there is the infinite and the infinitesimal. There is the one who is supremely conscious, who is eternal, and he is providing for those who are also eternal, not supremely conscious. There is the living entities who are eternal, but there is one living entity, which is actually the supreme living entity, God, who is maintaining all of them. This is Katha Upanishad. This is directly from Shruti. That verse destroys Mayavad philosophy. Even if they don't accept the Bhagavatam, okay, here it is. Nityo Nityanas Chetanas Chetananam. That is two. Now, we are not crazy. Krishna is revealing himself to us. Without that relation, we can do all these things for a long time. Yeah, nice. Okay, Mani Gopal, the sun in the night may not be visible to the eyes of men in the darkness, but the sun is visible wherever he has risen. That the sun, okay, the same. Just give us in your own words. One who is imbued with such sincere inquiries must ask the bona fide. Okay, nice. Murari. The process of bhakti is directly explained by the Lord, and Brahma asked Narada to expand it, that people in general will easily understand by the transcendental love and service of the Lord. I don't know how that is a preaching point. It's a point, but I don't know if that's a preaching point. Verse 35. Prabhupada uses the word mystery 13 times in this verse. Nice point. Translates Saharasyan or bhakti as mystery. The bhakti is very important, and it's time and again stressed in the purport. Mystery is understood by the attitude of Premanjana Bhakti Vilochanena. Very nice. Thank you. Tribanga Shyam. Everyone should know. Okay, we have 24 messages. I cannot go through all of them. No. Okay, it's a few more. The was from before. Tribanga Shyam. Everyone should know inquiries put before a bona fide spiritual master expert in the science of bhakti. Okay, that's a good point. Dineshwara, devotees are always absorbed in the transcendental service of the Lord. Their desires are never unfulfilled. Where do you get that from in the Chatusloki? Please explain. We can learn
Prabhu, I got it from it's text 35.
Okay.
In the purport.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's a point, but how will you connect it with the verse?
To my understanding from the preaching perspective, okay, firstly in the Bhagavatam, there's that point where the desire of the Lord and a pure devotee are always the same. Yeah. Then secondly, in terms of devotional service, the concept of Yukta Vairagya comes to my mind, where every activity that we do can be dovetailed in the service of the Lord. So in this way, if we constantly engage all our activities in the service of the Lord, it's in line with pleasing the Lord, I would say.
It's nice. I will say that's kind of warm, but it's not hot. I'm not convinced, that, serving the Lord, okay, I can dovetail my desires in his service, and then I can align my desires with the desires of the Lord. All right. Is no more to it than that? Is there anything else to it?
That's what I can think about at the moment, unless someone else.
Anyone else? About bhakti, when we engage in bhakti and pure bhakti with the Lord, well, yes, Prabhu mentioned that, we can dovetail our desires, Yukta Vairagya, we can use things in his service, and and then we can align our desires with the desire of the Lord. But is there any more than that? It's the Lord's personal reciprocation. We can actually develop a loving relationship with the Lord. Okay? And that's the most congenial form of intimacy, according to the Bhagavatam. So when you're saying the devotees are always absorbed in the transcendental service of the Lord, the desires are never unfulfilled. Why? Because of the Lord's personal reciprocation. He's sitting right there in the heart, and he knows exactly how to, satisfy our innermost need. That makes sense or no? I'm touching. Does that make sense? Yes or no? If it doesn't make sense, please correct me. Anyone? Asaf, you are muted.
Can you say again what you were?
I'm saying that the reason why the devotees of the Lord, the desires are never unfulfilled, is because the Lord is personally reciprocating with the devotees. It's a two-way relationship. Bhakti is not just a one-way relationship. Love means two ways. Just as we're serving the Lord is also reciprocating that love. The Lord is making arrangements for us to make progress in the path. Okay, I think it's a very clear point. I hope. Yeah, clear or not?
We cannot perceive the Lord directly, but we can perceive him through his devotees. But we do not perceive the Lord's mercy directly.
Don't you? Don't you?
Most of the time, not.
Most of the time, but do you perform do you experience the mercy of the Lord chanting Hare Krishna?
Otherwise, I would not chant.
Okay, so then you do. You do experience the mercy of the Lord. Directly. Do you experience the mercy of the Lord taking darshan?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Text 35. Okay. That's one must understand that. Okay, I'm just gonna move ahead because I have a few points here in my chart anyway. So this is many points. I'm not gonna read them. I just, I'm gonna show you the slide because it's just verifying the very points that you have, and I'm gonna give you this in the outline anyway. Okay. But these all are preaching points we have actually discussed. Okay. He's the beginning of everything, and he's unlimited. Someone mentioned he's unlimited. Yeah. And he's the beginning. The form of the Lord exists in all circumstances. The spiritual manifestation never vanishes. These are all preaching points from 33. Okay, from 34. Whatever we see separate from the Lord, we know it to be my illusory energy. Neither darkness nor reflection has independent existence. In other words, material energy, not the living entities, have independent existence. The drama of Prakriti, you remember we were discussing yesterday how we identify ourselves with a material situation, which is temporary. It will cease to exist. And we are dazzled, like we are allured by a glaring reflection. But we're not seeing what it is. We're seeing a reflection of the real thing, which is in the spiritual world.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, sorry to
Yes.
interrupt. Can you just show me this first slide, the last one? The last one, just for a second.
Which one? It's all here.
Before this slide.
I will send you the slide afterwards. I have to, it's a bit of a big thing going back on one slide. You can copy from the presentation. So, one cannot make a solution of darkness, of ignorance, simply by the reflection of light. That was another important point. Okay. You will get the slide, so don't worry about it. Okay. Cannot make a solution of darkness, of ignorance, simply by the reflection of light. Okay. So it's like if you are in the darkness, the only way to remove the darkness is by bringing light. We cannot get out of Maya with Maya. We need the mercy of the Lord. No lamp or man-made torchlight can help one see the sun. The sun reveals itself. Okay? Is that okay? We're moving ahead. The Lord, now this is text 35. The Lord exists within everything created and outside. Okay? Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. The Lord abides in the material world as a super soul. The all-pervading form of the Lord does not limit him having a personal form. Again, Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. Those who have bhakti can see the Lord in every atom and in every movable and non-movable object. The Supreme Lord, by his different energies, namely the internal and external, is within everything in the manifested cosmos. And at the same time, he is outside of everything, situated in the kingdom of God. The mystery is transcendental love of Godhead. Okay, someone was mentioning that this is very secret. That's Sarrahasyam. And one who is surcharged with such transcendental love of Godhead can without difficulty see the personality of Godhead in every atom and in every movable or immovable object. At the same time, they have Krishna's pastimes in his abode manifested in their hearts. Okay, and the last verse, sorry, no, that's it's still the same. The goal of existence, no, that's it, the last verse. The goal of existence is Prema Bhakti and is not to be searched out without great labor or perseverance. Universal consciousness is factually achieved by coordinated service of all concerned to the personality of Godhead, and that alone can ensure total perfection. So if you're writing the essay, just because I'm doing the essay for you now, this is one of the questions in the open book assessment, right? So I'm giving you the points. Now, you're not supposed to just copy and paste this. You have to explain it, you know, and we have been discussing it extensively, all these points. And by the way, I very much appreciate your points. They were really nice. So all you need to do for your essay is those same points that everybody's been sharing on the chat box. Just use them, and you have your essay done for next unit. We have done it right now here in the class. Just explain it. Clear? Okay, as long as one is blind to inquiring after self-realization, all material activities, however great they may be, are all different kinds of defeat, because the aim of such human life is not fulfilled by such unwanted and profitless activities. Sarvatra Sarvada. Okay, what does Sarvatra Sarvada means? Anyone knows? Unmute yourself if you know.
The devotional service can be done anywhere and every time.
Thank you. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada therefore comments on the word Sarvatra Sarvada in the sense that the principles of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service to the Lord are up in all circumstances. Bhakti Yoga is recommended in all the revealed scriptures. It is performed by all authorities. It is important in all places, and it is useful in all causes and effects. The conclusion is that devotional service to the Lord is open for all, regardless of who they are, provided he or she takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in all earnestness. Okay, so is this making sense? Are we on page, everybody? Yeah. Okay. Therefore, okay, so we read this before. Actually, we read from the purport. So that kind of concludes our study of the Chatusloki Bhagavatam, and now the chapter continues with Lord Brahma. He proceeds with the creation, and we're getting how Lord Brahma expanded this knowledge, and we get a list about the different speakers of the Bhagavatam. So may I know, someone would like to volunteer to tell us who are those speakers of Srimad Bhagavatam mentioned in the Bhagavatam itself? Anyone? Okay.
The Lord.
So we have Lord Krishna to Brahma. Okay, where is that? Chatusloki Bhagavatam. In fact, there is a verse, let me just find it, where Krishna, Prabhupada explains that it was Krishna himself who spoke the Chatushloki Bhagavatam to Brahma. Let me just find the verse. Yeah, it's here. In text 37, purport, Prabhupada writes, in the Gopala Tapani Upanishad, it is said, Gopa Veshame Purusha Purastat Avir Bhavuha. The Lord appeared before Brahma as a cowboy, that is, as the original personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna Govinda, who is later described by Brahmaji in his Brahma Samhita. So with Krishna himself, not Vishnu. Okay. So Lord Brahma, okay, we are getting all the lines here, Manigopal, Sankarshan, okay. Brahma to Narada Muni, we discussed that already in this unit, in fact, right? Narada Muni to Vyasadeva, we discussed that in the first canto, chapters 4 to 7. Vyasadeva to Sukadeva Goswami, there is only some prayers of Sukadeva Goswami to Vyasadeva. Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit begins on the second canto. Sutta Goswami to Naimisaranya sages. And basically that's it. Now we will hear later on in the Bhagavatam, when you come to the third canto, you'll hear about, someone is writing here, Maitreya Muni to Vidura. Yeah, it's true. Now, anyway, you are going to come into that very, next unit. So I'll leave that for the next presenter, since we are already short on time today. Okay, so the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam. Although Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken in 4 verses, it had 10 characteristics, which will be explained in the next chapter. This is the connection between this chapter 9 and chapter 10. These 10 characteristics require so many verses just to explain them properly. Brahmaji had also advised Narada previously that he should expand the idea he had heard from Brahmaji. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed this to Srila Rupa Goswami in a nutshell, but the disciple Rupa Goswami expanded this very elaborately, and the same subject was further expanded by Jiva Goswami and even further by Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. We're just trying to follow in the footsteps of all these authorities. So Srimad Bhagavatam is not like ordinary fiction or mundane literature. It is unlimited in strength, and however one may expand it according to one's own ability, Bhagavatam still cannot be finished by such expansion. Someone needs to mute themselves. Srimad Bhagavatam, being the sound representation of the Lord, is simultaneously explained in 4 verses and in 4 billion verses. All the same, it's as much as the Lord is smaller than the atom and bigger than the unlimited sky. Such is the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are seeing that, the Bhagavatam is being given from spiritual master to disciple, is received, and the spiritual master is instructing the disciple to expand the knowledge. Like Krishna is telling Brahma to expand his knowledge. We heard Brahma told Narada Muni, now you expand that knowledge. Then Narada Muni then told Vyasadeva, now you write the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the parampara system. So Mahavira Prabhu asked the question about, how do we balance our preaching and our sadhana, right? Was that the question, Mahavira Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, you mentioned that 5 potent forms of devotional service in which chanting is most important. And then you also mentioned that ours is a preaching mission. So how to balance the time?
So this is very individual, because we all have different situations. But the principle is that we are a preaching movement, and if if we want to get the blessings of the Vaishnavas, and if we want to get the blessings of the previous Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, then we must actively contribute to that, to the mission, in whichever capacity we may be able to do. Someone may be able to do more than others, but we should have that in our, list of objectives. So, someone may be able to give his time. Someone may be able to give his money. Someone may be, when we're saying about giving your time, it may mean that you may be able to do some service in the temple. You may be able, someone may serve the devotees. You may have a talent. Like you may be a builder. You may be an architect. You may be an accountant. You may be an architect. Who knows? Okay, let's see how can I use my material qualification in the service of the Lord. We can contribute to the mission by leading exemplary lives. Being a good grihasta, that's big preaching. Because people are not so much attracted by what we say, but by who we are. Ralph Waldo Emerson, he says something nice. He says, who you are speaks so loud that I cannot hear what you're saying. So, being a good devotee, that's also a contribution to the movement. And Sankirtan preaching is not just an activity itself, but it's a mood. And it's a mood of sharing Krishna consciousness. So I know devotees, I have friends who, always carry a book with them. And, wherever they go, they are in the bus, or they go in the train, or they go in the plane, they are looking of ways of how am I going to give that book to this person? How am I going to engage this person? It's a consciousness. You can even do some service in the temple. You can do your daily worship, but you can do it in the mood of, oh, I'm going to do this so nicely that when people come, they're going to be attracted. They're going to appreciate. I'm going to clean the temple so that, I'm going to cook a nice feast. I mean, there is so much scope. But the thing is that it's a preaching movement, is sharing, in one of my favorite quotes, actually, I have many favorite quotes, but this came only a few years back, okay? I somehow eluded me that quote. I don't know, I think maybe 6:2:30, no, anyway, I can paraphrase it. And Prabhupada writes, he says that the activities of the Krishna consciousness movement are not meant for oneself, but for others also. One who acts according to this principle will never fall down, because Krishna will give him his personal protection. This is the sum and substance of Krishna consciousness.
Prabhuji, I would request you to repeat once again because it is very important.
Okay, let's find the verse. Actually, I think it's easy to find, and I'll give you I'm just gonna look for it, but so I just repeat it verbatim. I think it's 6:3:32. Okay. Okay, so it's 6:2:36. Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, I'll read. The activities of the Krishna consciousness movement are meant not only for oneself, but for others also. This is the perfection of Krishna consciousness. One who is interested in his own salvation is not as advanced in Krishna consciousness as one who feels compassion for others and who therefore propagates the Krishna consciousness movement. Such an advanced devotee will never fall down, for Krishna will give him special protection. This is the sum and substance of the Krishna consciousness movement.
What's the verse number again?
6:236.
No.
6, Canto 6, Chapter 2, Text 36. Okay, Sam Binay wrote it there actually. Nice. So we have to keep this present in our lives, and understand my interactions with other devotees. That's also a way of preaching. People sees. I mean, personally, for me, the most inspiring thing is devotees. And the most uninspiring thing sometimes can be devotees too, by their behavior. So how can you do, we have to think ways in which we can, contribute. I always have that kind of, you could say, principle in my life that Seva, what is my service? You have to have a service. I mean, I joined the movement and it was just, life was service for many years. It was like, there was nothing else actually. But then later on, when I moved out of the temple, I moved to Mayapur, and then there was different things that came up. And Jamastami Prabhu's mercy, he's here now, like the irony of destiny, but I'm only here because of him. He gave me service at the Mayapur Institute in 2008. At that time, I could have chosen to do something else. There were many opportunities to do other things, but here was my chance to do some service, and I stick to it until today. I never did the Navadvip Mandal Parikrama because I had service every year. I mean, last 2 years, last year was COVID, right? And I could have done it the last year or so, but most years I couldn't do it because I had service. But for me, that's more important, So I try to mold my life in terms of how can I do some service, even if it's small service. And if you have that, Krishna will give you an opportunity for sure. Something will come up. So when the opportunity comes up, be open to that. Okay, maybe Krishna wants me to do something here, and just take it, even if it's a small thing. So this is part of our lives. I have to, let's give back something to our society. We have to. And when we do that, Krishna gives special protection. Because the thing is that ISKCON is a preaching movement. So there are those who are in the front line preaching, but the movement requires so much organization, so much management, so many other things. So even if you are not on the front line preaching, but you are actively serving the mission, you are preaching. You're cleaning the temple is preaching. You're doing the accounts is preaching. It all, because it's all part of the mission. So there is a limited scope for that, and we must do that. And if we're gonna do that, as I said, okay, be an exemplary devotee. Okay, share with Krishna consciousness with your neighbors, with your friends. Be in that space that there is urgency. Prabhupada, it's an emergency situation. Prabhupada writes in the first canto of the Bhagavatam that when there is fire in the house, Even though you may not know the language of the other people, you can communicate because it's fire in the house. So we are in the fire of the material existence. So surely there is ways you can do something, you know. Like here in Mayapur, the devotees go on Harinam, they distribute books, they go on food distribution. Some devotees that they you know, they're serving different departments. It's so many things to do, and if you don't do them, the mind catches you. So is that clear?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. So it means that in a nutshell that preaching is also as important as the 5 potent forms of devotional service.
It's part of them. It is part of them.
Okay.
Because when you're preaching, you will be engaging in speaking Bhagavatam. You will be engaged in chanting the holy name. You will be associating with devotees. You know, you will be like you will be in the temple that's living in the holy dam.
Okay.
You know, so it is, you know, by preaching, one way by which you can engage in those 5 potent items is by preaching, right? Not always necessarily, as I said, you may doing you know, that's not like a Panchanga Bhakti. We're getting in, I mean, I don't want to confuse, you know. One thing is that our sadhana, that we should do some, so because I'm making it a little kind of blur now, sorry. We do our Panchanga Bhakti and we charge ourselves up. And like Vaisheshika Prabhu says, like the overflowing of that, you know, nectar that we're getting, that's what we share with others, right? So we should not neglect the execution of those 5 potent items of bhakti. But what I'm saying is that we should include that preaching, serving the mission. And most likely, when you do those preaching activities, you will be engaged also in doing those 5 items, because you will be associating with the devotees. Okay, so is that clear now?
Yes, it means that if we are doing book distribution, that means it's something like chanting only.
Yeah, I mean, when I first joined, I was out on books, and I remember I was chanting the whole day on the streets. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, excuse me, the whole day. And I remember that I thought, well, I stayed in that temple. It was cold. It was not to my liking, the place where I joined, to be honest, you know. Yes. But I was there, and I was thinking, there is nothing else I'm gonna be doing. That I'm gonna spend like 7 or 8 hours chanting the holy name. This is like, you know, bhajan, you know, I mean, the whole day. Yes. And that was Krishna's mercy. Because I don't chant the whole day now. But, you know, being on the fire of Sankirtan, Krishna gave us special mercy, you know.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, Mastami Prabhu, we're really behind. So, but I know what you have to say is very important. So please do so.
30 seconds.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
I know it's going to be very valid.
Just by preaching, you surcharge the Panchanga Bhakti. It gives it full facility, gives it much more intensity, and you make much more benefit from it. That's my personal experience with it. So much easier to chant good rounds if you go out and distribute a lot of books.
Yes, such an important point. And this is what means you will get special mercy. That's what Krishna is saying. Get special mercy. You know, it's like the preaching is like the oil that you put into the machine, you know. If you don't do any activities, any service, everything becomes like a grind, like you're chanting your rounds and it's no juice. When you out, you serve the mission, that gives you that nectar, that taste. That's my experience too, and Yamastami as well. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. So now we enter in chapter 10, which is the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I beg for your blessings that we may cover the whole thing in the remaining time. Most likely we may have to go a little bit over time, hopefully not too long. So that's why I'm requesting your blessings. So chapter 10, last chapter of the second canto, verses 1 to 9. Oh, am I sharing the screen? No, sorry. My fault. 1 second. Okay, so there is three major sections. Here is the first, Sukadeva Goswami is gonna describe the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then it's a very technical, very interesting part where it's explained how the dependent jivas should take shelter of the independent ashraya. I will say that this is actually the main topic of the whole chapter, and that's the main topic of the whole Bhagavatam, okay? And I'll explain why in a minute when we come to the verses. And then the Lord is situated beyond the material coverings. That's the last part. Okay. Oh, so I had to, okay, well, never mind. So this is basically another division. So according to Jiva Goswami, Puranas such Srimad Bhagavatam deal with 10 topics, whereas lesser Puranas deal with only 5. Okay, so those what those 10 topics are is going to be explained in this chapter, and Bhagavatam is a Mahapurana. Now, those lesser Puranas that did only with 5, they cover also the 10 topics, but they don't cover them in as much depth as the Mahapurana, which will cover the 10 topics in depth. So here is the verse, and these are the Dasha Lakshanam, the 10 topics. It's a famous verse, and I believe this is one of your memorization verses. Atra sargo visargascha stanam poshanam utaya manvantare shanukata nirodho muktir ashraya. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, subcreation, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of manners, the science of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and the summum bonum. Okay, so this is the first verse of this chapter. Now, we have another more literal translation in the Adilila, also by Srila Prabhupada. And here we have first topic, okay, Sarga, the creation of the ingredients of the cosmos. Second topic, Visarga, the creations of Brahma. Third topic, the maintenance of the creation, Sthanam. 4, special favor given to the faithful, Poshanam. 5, impetus for activity. This is Henu. Actually, Utaya, actually, because there is 2 descriptions in the Bhagavatam. One is given by Shukadeva Goswami here, and another one will be given in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam by Sutta Goswami. And the names are given that different, actually. I'll show you in a minute. So 5, impetus for activities, Utaya. Then 6, prescribed duties for law-abiding men, that's Manvantara. A description of the incarnations of the Lord, that's 7th topic, that's Ishanukata. The winding up of the creation, that's Nirodho. Liberation from gross and subtle material existence, that's Mukti. And Ashraya, the ultimate shelter, the supreme personality of Godhead. Now, Ashraya and Ashrita. So there are 2 different principles that are considered, okay? One of them is the Ashraya, which is the object providing shelter, and the Ashrita, which is the one who receives that shelter, the sheltered. So when we're talking of the 10 topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is one who is the Ashraya and is called as such. And the other topics, the other 9 topics, they are Ashrita. They are depending on the Ashraya. So in one sense, you could say that there is only one topic in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and that is Ashraya, that's Krishna. And the other 9 categories, the other 9 topics are only there to help us understand the Ashraya. I'll continue, I'll read from this quote. It says, the prayers of Srimad Bhagavatam, however, aim for the Ashraya Tattva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The great souls expert in describing Srimad Bhagavatam have very diligently delineated the other 9 categories, sometimes by narrations, sometimes by indirect narrations, such as stories. The real purpose of doing this is to know perfectly the absolute transcendence, Sri Krishna, for the entire creation, both material and spiritual, rests on the body of Sri Krishna. So this is actually a commentary on the second verse of this 10th chapter, which is also quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, so I'll read that. Text 2. To isolate the transcendence of the summum bonum, the symptoms of the rest are described sometimes by Vedic inference, sometimes by direct explanation, and sometimes by summary explanations given by great sages. So the idea here also is that we gain an understanding of the Ashraya by understanding the 9 categories. And sometimes, you know, the Lord is referred to by direct descriptions, through prayers, or by narrating some incident, some story where the Lord was involved. Okay. So, what is the objective of this understanding the 10 topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam? Well, Srimad Bhagavatam is the Lord himself. And everything, every syllable that we hear from the prayers of Sanatana Goswami, we read them every day. Prema Varsyak Sharayate. That every syllable, it gives prema. So understanding these 10 topics will help us to see Krishna in every page of Srimad Bhagavatam, even when apparently what is being described is not directly describing Krishna, if that makes sense. Okay. And actually, this is the verse I just read. Okay. This is I just read from the second verse. Is making sense so far? Okay. Sachitanayana, which topics don't cover other Puranas? Well, I'll show you in a minute. We'll come to that in a second. They cover all the topics, okay? But some of them are covered in depth. 5 of them are covered in depth, and other 5 are not. So I'll give you a table at the end of the class. It's in this presentation. Okay, so now we're going each of these verses explain the different topics. So this is text 3. Bhuta matendriyadiyam jamma sarga udharita. The first creation, so what is sarga? The first creation by Vishnu, the bringing forth of the 5 gross material elements, the 5 objects of sense perception, the 10 senses, the mind, the intelligence, the false ego, and the total material energy or universal form. This is called sarga. Clear? Okay, we have the Mahatattva. Before we have the Mahatattva, actually we have Pradhan, right? And Pradhan, when the Lord glances over that Pradhan, it becomes agitated. That balanced state of material nature becomes agitated by that glance of the Lord. And, you know, and the glance of the Lord includes the jivas and time. And then from the combination of false ego arises, and from the false ego in combination with the 3 modes of material nature, we get the mind, the intelligence, five senses, the five sense organs, the five subtle elements, the five gross elements. So up until this point, this is called the sarga, the primary creation. And that we have already studied in the second canto, and it will be explained again in the third canto. Okay, so that's one of the topics of the Bhagavatam. Now, you could say, well, how is this connected with the Ashraya? Okay, so the idea is that when we understand when we understand the creation, that gives us acts as an impetus for us to be able to appreciate the creator. Okay, and you can see in the Bhagavatam there is so much content is going about the creation. You're going to study so many chapters just in the is coming to you. You will have 12 more chapters in the third canto where this is described. And one reason is because for those people who are not so spiritually inclined, one way by which we can appreciate the greatness of God is through the creation. Okay, so that's one way we can establish that connection. I mean, it's multiple ways. Okay, so that's the first topic. Then Visarga, Brahmano Gunavaishamyat Visarga Purusha Smrita. Now, the secondary creation is the work of Brahma in developing the planetary systems and producing the moving and non-moving bodies in the universe. The Prajapatis and their wives also assist in this task. So now, the Lord provides all the ingredients, and Lord Brahma, he will combine and he will create the different living entities, the different planets. He will create the Prajapatis, who with their wife will also populate the universe, how the universe is populated and filled. This is executed by Brahma, and this is called Visarga. Okay, second topic. Sthanam. Okay, so this is very, very interesting. I like this, the way it's described in the Sanskrit. This is text 4. It says, Stitir Vaikunta Vijaya. Okay, so now Sthanam is the maintenance of the Lord, by maintenance of the universe by the Lord is an incomparable glory, Vijay. This maintenance extends from controlling the planets in the orbits to supplying for the subsistence of the smallest living creature. The Lord is the only one capable to provide the necessities for all. So as we study the Bhagavatam, we see that according to different levels of consciousness, different living entities are given different positions in the material world. And the Lord creates those situations. Lord Brahma, I mean, you can imagine the service of Lord Brahma to create those situations for all the different living entities in the material world, for all those different desires. But then the Lord actually, he maintains the universe. He's the maintainer, but he also keeps everyone in their respective positions. So this is another topic that is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, how the Lord provides, how the Lord maintains, but also how the Lord is able to keep everybody where they're meant to be. And this is literally means Stitir Vaikunta Vijaya. It means the victory of the Lord of Vaikunta. Because no one else can do that. Everybody is where it's meant to be. The world is built on justice. Everybody is on their respective positions. Once again, this gives peace of mind. When we understand that the Lord is behind and how the Lord is maintaining everybody in the respective situations. Okay. So again, this topic is described through the Srimad Bhagavatam. extensively. Now, poshanam tad anugraha. It is the special care and protection dispensed by the Lord for his devotees. As a king maintains his kingdom and subjects, but nevertheless gives special attention to the members of his family, so the personality of Godhead gives special care to his devotees who are souls completely surrendered to him. This is a major topic through the whole Bhagavatam. How the Lord gives special attention to those who have love for him, those who serve him, those who approach him for shelter. It is the mercy of the Lord. So we gain appreciation from the Lord as the Ashraya. So I'll kind of stop a little bit here with the description of the different 10 topics, because I wanted to now introduce this thing, not introduce, we already discussed it, but I want to expand a little more. This concept of Ashraya and Ashrita. You see, the whole purpose of the Bhagavatam is to establish who is the Ashraya, what is the Ashraya, what Ashraya means, what is the ultimate shelter, who is my ultimate shelter. We should think about this. What is my ultimate shelter? When I'm in trouble, when I am in difficulty, who do I take shelter of? Do I take shelter of my mind? You know, in the material world, people take shelter of intoxication, people take shelter of drugs or alcohol, people take shelter of, you know, movies, sports, porn, sex. When the minds are disturbed, shopping, earning money, qualifications, power. So what is, you know, what is the ultimate shelter? The Bhagavatam is going to establish what is the ultimate shelter, and who is that? Krishna. And why he is the ultimate shelter? Because he's fully independent. He's giving shelter to everyone else. He doesn't need shelter. All others, categories, all other things, everything else is dependent on him. Why will I take shelter of the material energy, for example? It's depending on him. It's a relative to, he's the source of the material energy. Whatever beautiful thing, whatever experience we may have in the material world is coming from him anyway. Why don't take shelter from him directly? So the discussion about these 10 topics is to help us understand who should we take shelter of, if that makes sense. Yamastami Prabhu, you had your hand up from before. Tell us.
No, that's all right. That was from before. I'm sorry, Prabhu, I didn't take it down.
Okay. So next, Uti. Utaya Karmavasana. The urge for creation or initiative power is the living entity's desire for fruitive action. It is only due to this desire that the creation takes place as an opportunity for the jivas to exercise their minute independence. In this sense, we, conditioned souls, are the cause of creation. So we are also going to see here in the Srimad Bhagavatam about, you know, adverse, what is that chapter called? Adverse material activities, a famous chapter. I'm sure Yamastami remembers that one. And, you know, we're going to hear about prachinavaris, you know, sacrifices, you know, the desire of the living entity to, you know, engage in fruitive work, basically. It's another topic in the Bhagavatam. It's going to be described. Now, Manvantarani Sadharma. Next topic. The Manus and other agents sent by the Lord are responsible for instructing humanity about religious principles so that they may progress on the path back to Godhead. Without shelter or without such arrangement by the Lord, the creation will be as useless as a hospital without doctors. So again, we're going to see how in each day of Lord Brahma, there are 14 Manvantaras. So, and which is this, each incarnation of the Lord, there is a Manu. And this each Manu, they come to establish Saddharma, to establish religious principles. This is Krishna's mercy. He is providing guidance throughout the history of the universe. Okay? So we're going to hear also descriptions of this. Not just the Manus themselves, but even like Prithu Maharaj, or how they come and they establish religious principles for the welfare of society. Now, these topics are also interconnected because, for example, those who follow the religious principles, they get the protection by the Lord. They get Poshanam, right? Those who don't, they don't. Now, Ishanukata, Anvantanucharitam, Hareschasya Nuvartinam, Pumsam Ishakata Prokta, Nanakyano Pabrimhita. The science of God describes the incarnations of the personality of Godhead and his various activities in relations to his devotees. Okay, so what can you tell me an example so far of what we have studied in the Bhaktivaibhava? What will be a section of this, Ishanukata, which particularly focuses on this? Unmute yourself or write it down. Which chapter? Which canto? I know it's a lot of content today. I'm sorry if you're a bit overwhelmed.
Canto 1, Chapter 3.
Yes, well done. And in the second canto? Chapter 7, thank you. Very nice. Yeah. But we're going to see throughout the Bhagavatam, like we have the picture of Lord Nishingadev there. We have so many avatars are going to be described. So Ishanukata, the pastimes of the Lord. But bear in mind that this is also considered Ashrita. Okay? Not the Ashraya. Okay. Nirodha. Nirodho Shyanusayanam Atmana Sahashaktibi is the winding up of all energies employed in the creation, as well as the immersion of the conditioned souls, along with their material identification in the mystic slumber of Mahavishnu. Now, as I said, the creation goes through periods, through cycles, and is created, is maintained, and is wound up in the body of the Lord. And those living entities who do not take advantage of the opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead, they are merged again into the body of the Lord, and and stay merged in the body of the Lord until the next creation. So there are different types of annihilation in the universe. This is explained by Sutta Goswami in the 12th canto. It's not mentioned here, but basically Nirodha. Okay, that's as I explained, the winding up of all energies. Okay, next text, next topic, Mukti. Now this is quoted by Prabhupada in various places in Bhagavad Gita. Muktir hitvan yata rupan sarupena vyavastiti. Liberation. What is liberation? Prabhupada gives a very nice translation. He says, it's the permanent situation of the form of the living entity after he gives up the changeable gross and subtle material bodies. So again, this is another topic. It's going to be described. Different personalities, how they attain liberation through in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Now, who is the giver of liberation? What is Krishna? So everything is connected with the Lord. And now, the 10th topic, which is the Ashraya, that topic which is upon which all other topics are depending. Avasas cha nirodas cha yatosti adyavasi yate sa ashraya param brahma paramatmeti shabdyate. The Supreme Being, Sri Krishna, who is the source of the cosmic manifestation as well as its reservoir and winding up, is the ultimate shelter for everyone. Indeed, he is even the shelter for his own self, swasrayaha, being supremely independent. So we have a nice lotus here with the different topics. Now, the question may be raised. Okay, is it clear so far? Any questions so far? Okay, so I'll move ahead. Now, where do we find the 10 topics? That will be a good question to ask, right? Where are the 10 topics? So, Jiva Goswami, this is from the 12th canto, okay? Purport. Sri Jiva Goswami has explained that the 10 principal topics of Srimad Bhagavatam are found within each of the 12 cantos. One should not try to assign each of the 10 topics to a particular canto, nor should the Srimad Bhagavatam be artificially interpreted to show that it deals with the topics successively. The simple fact is that all aspects of knowledge important to human beings, summarized in the 10 categories mentioned above, are described with various degrees of emphasis and analysis throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so they are dispersed throughout the Bhagavatam. It's not that specific, you will find on a specific cantos successively because Prabhupada named those cantos as, for example, the first canto is called creation. So that's Sargan. No, they're everywhere. The first canto, the first verse the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam contains the 10 topics. So now Prabhupada, this is the letter he wrote. So I have decided to print Srimad Bhagavatam in 12 volumes, naming them differently. I have decided in this way. First volume, creation. Second volume, cosmic manifestation. Third volume, status quo. I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know if that's the way, status quo. Fourth volume, mercy of God. Fifth volume, creative energy. Okay, does it sound familiar so far? Right? Sixth volume, the rulers of the universe. Seventh volume, activities of God. Eighth volume, dissolution. Ninth volume, liberation. 10th volume, ultimate goal. 11th volume, general history. 12th volume, the age of deterioration. Right? Sarga, Visarga, Shtanam, Poshanam, Uttaya, Manvantara, Ishanukata, Nidodor, Mukti, Ashraya. Okay? Each canto is parallel, the names is parallel to the 10 topics. Okay? But that doesn't mean that those topics are on those cantos. That's the point I'm trying to make to convey to you. Now, you will find that particular cantos give emphasis to a particular topic. Like we have just covered the second canto, and we saw that there is quite a bit on creation, okay, on Sarga. And the third canto that you're moving on next soon also discusses Sarga. Then Visarga, you will also find it in the second, third, and fourth canto. Stanam, third, 7, 11th canto. Poshanam, throughout. Manvantara, particularly the 8th canto, is going to describe many different manus. Ishanukata, also dispersed throughout the Bhagavatam, different passages of the Lord. Nirodha, particularly we hear about in the 11th and the 12th canto. Utaya, we hear on the 3rd canto, we hear on the 11th canto. And Ashraya, particularly, which is the topic which is dealing with Krishna's pastimes, particularly, is the 10th canto. We hear about Krishna also in the 3rd canto. We hear about Krishna also in the 1st canto. Now, other reference for the 10 topics. So I was telling you that this is also presented in the 12th canto by Sutta Goswami. And it's also discussed in the Adi Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Jiva Goswami also analyzes these topics in the Tattva Sandarbha. If you bought the book and if you're planning to read it, you will find it also. So now, the terminology varies. This is additional, okay? Because we are only right now on the 2nd canto. But just for the sake of clarity in the future, if you come across the 10 topics, know that the list given by Shukadeva Goswami and by Sutta Goswami, the names don't match, but the topics do, okay? So Sarga and Visarga are the same, then Stanam is Vritti, Poshanam, Raksha, Uti, Utaya, Hetu, Uti is Hetu, Manvantara, Vamsha, Ishanukata, Vamsanucharita, Nirodha, Samsta, Mukti, Samsta, Ashraya, Apashraya. Okay? Now, someone asked about the question about the difference between a Mahapurana and a Lesser Purana. So, like a Lesser Purana will focus on these 5 topics: Sarga, Pratisarga, Vamsha, Manvantara, and Vamsanucharitam. But these 5 topics include the 10 topics. Okay, as given in the table. Sarga includes Sarga, Visarga, and Ashraya. Pratisarga includes Nirodha, Mukti. Vamsha, Ishanukata, Manvantara, and Sthanam. And Vansanucharitam includes Ishanukata, Poshana, Uti, and Ashraya. Okay, so that's the answer to that initial question. So again, going back to this principle of as Ashraya and Ashrita, and I believe we read already this before. I put this slide twice because this is, as I say, is very essential. Okay, the difference. 2 different principles are to be considered herein, namely Ashraya, the object providing shelter, and Ashrita, the dependence requiring shelter. The Ashrita exists under the original principle, the Ashraya. The first 9 categories described in the first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam are all Ashrita. To know distinctly the ultimate shelter of everything that be, I have described the other 9 categories. The 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam reveals the 10th object, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the shelter of all surrendered souls. He is known as Sri Krishna. Let me offer my obeisances unto him. Okay. Now, in the preface, Prabhupada writes how the 10th canto is distinct from the first 9 cantos because it deals directly with the transcendental activities of the personality of God, Sri Krishna. But the point is, and this is why we have to go through the first 9 cantos, that we will not be able to understand who Krishna is if we jump directly on the 10th canto. We will consider his pastimes to be mundane unless we understand who Krishna really is. And we come to understand who Krishna really is through these other 9 categories: creation, sarga, visarga, sthanam, poshanam. Through all these different topics, we are able to capture, to understand who this cowherd boy playing with the calves and the cows and the gopis and the gopas and, running away, running in fear from Mother Yashoda, flirting with the gopis. Unless we study carefully the first 9 cantos, we will misunderstand and we will attribute material qualities to the pastimes of the Lord. Okay, so is it clear so far? I know it's quite a lot today, but that's just what to do. If we want to, cover so much stuff, it just requires that kind of density. So is it okay with everybody? We have more people here today. I just noticed more people than usual, more numbers. I don't know who is the new guests. Any questions so far? Okay. You still have any oxygen going through your brains? Do you need to stand up for to stretch up a little bit for the next like 10 more minutes or so? Am I alone here? Any response from anybody? Can I just see you there and see how you're doing?
You can continue, Prabhu.
You can show your faces just for a second to see if anyone has died or left, like not died, but lose consciousness. Okay, you're there. Eh? Okay. Thank you. Some of you I'm seeing for first time on the last day. Okay, so now basically this is the main topic of discussion in this chapter. Now the verses that come, they are gonna show us how we are all completely dependent on the Lord. It's very technical, and I hope you have read it. We're not gonna read all the verses. So there is a verse here that is very interesting. So text number 8, okay? Go to text number 8. And we have there a technical explanation. He said, the individual person possessing different instruments of senses is called the, okay, before that, let's read text number 7, because it just will bring in context the text number 8. The Supreme One who is celebrated as the Supreme Being or the Supreme Soul is the Supreme Source of the cosmic manifestation, as well as its reservoir and winding up. Thus, he is the Supreme Fountainhead, the Absolute Truth. Purports are very, very nice. I'm not reading them because obviously why not, right? But it's very important that you go through these verses yourselves. Text 8. Yo diatmiko yam purusha sosab eva didaivika yastatro bhaya viksheda purusho hiadibautika. The individual person possessing different instruments of senses is called the adhyatmic person. And the individual controlling deity of the senses is called Adidaivic. The embodiment seen on the eyeballs is called the Adibhautic person. All three, text 9. All three of the above mentioned stages of different living entities are interdependent. In the absence of one, another is not understood. But the Supreme Being who sees every one of them as the shelter of the shelter is independent of all, and therefore he is the supreme shelter. So how do we understand this? We have basically three personalities here mentioned. One is the Adidaivika person, Adivautika person, Adhyatmika person. All right. So now the Adhyatmika person is the embodied soul, is the jiva, is us. Okay. The Adivautika person is the body.
Listen. Come to my house.
Someone needs to mute themselves there. Yeah. And the Adidaivic person is the controlling deity of that particular sense organ. You know, basically, one way to understand this will be like we are never independent in the sense that we as the soul, to function in this world, in material world, we need a material body. And the material body does not work without the supervision of the controlling deity of those particular organs. Now, if you take out any, they're interdependent in the sense that if there is no a soul, there is not a need for a material body. If there is no a material body, there is no a need for a controlling deity of the material body. And also the soul cannot function. If there is no a controlling deity, the material body cannot function. And if the material body cannot function, the embodied soul cannot function. So, but all these are ashrita. There are three purushas. Now, one may, you know, both adhyatmika and adidaivika, they are jivas. You know, for each of our organs, for our sense of, for our eyes, for even our for, you know, our working senses or our knowledge acquiring senses, there is a particular deity which is controlling how that sense works. And that's also a jiva. So you have that jiva who is controlling the sense organ, and you have the jiva who is using that sense organ. And you have the sense organ itself. So these are three distinct personalities. Now, the adivautika person is not a jiva, it's the material body. One may question, well, how is that a person, right? How is, you know, the material body a person? And I think it's Jiva Goswami or Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I don't remember right now, but one of the acharyas, he explains that it is considered a body because it's an upadi. It acts like a, you know, like a person, in the sense that upadi means what's the English word? Oh man,
Designation.
designations. Yeah, like we have different. So the material body is like a person, in the sense that it has different designations. You know, I'm tall, short, South American, English. You know. So from that perspective, he's a person. But once again, the idea is that these three purushas, they are all interdependent. Like sometimes you find someone who is blind. That means that the controlling deity somehow is not like facilitating for that person to see. You know, one way to explain it is like, say, for example, like in a computer, you have a computer game, and there is the, you know, the player in the game, right? and there is you who are playing the game, but on the screen there is the, you know, the little guy who is a kung fu master or whatever. Okay, so that kung fu master, just to give a metaphor, the kung fu master will be like a devout person. Okay, now you who are controlling using that, you know, Karate Kid guy, that's the adhyatmika person. And the person who is controlling the internet for you to work, the computer, all these things for them to function, that is the adhyatmika person. If the internet fails, and I hope it didn't fail because the electricity just went out as I said it, then you cannot play the game. If the player is not there to play the game, there is no use for the game. So is it clear? I always find this section kind of a little it's very, very technical, but I mean, I think the explanation, is the explanation clear? If not, you know, okay, so I can move ahead, right? So now the idea, yeah. The idea is that the dependent jivas must take shelter of the independent ashraya. So it has, you know, the disease of the living entity in the material world is that we think we're independent. We think we you know, like I remember when I was years ago doing book distribution, people will wear these t-shirts and the t-shirt will say, I am independent. And I used to think, yeah, right. You know, what is our independence, you know? We cannot even stop blinking our eyes. We cannot stop, you know, when we need to go to the toilet, we need to go to the toilet. There is a deity who is in charge of our blinking of our eyes. There is a deity who is in charge of us going to the toilet. As we are aging, and there is things, you know, we may get some problems with our minds, we may get some problems with our backs, with our liver, with our stomach. You can see how little control we have. But Krishna, he is independent, and that's the difference between us and him.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I'm not able to hear probably, maybe it is my problem.
Screen is frozen. His video is
Also, I lost him.
Hare Krishna. So I hope I didn't lose you. You seems to be still there. Can you hear me?
yeah. Please go on, Prabhu. We can hear you.
Haribol. So my apologies, but it's just very appropriate the way it happened because we're just discussing about how we are, you know, not independent, you know. I've done everything possible to have good internet connection. In fact, the internet Wala came today to ensure that the last thing possible that needed to be done so that internet doesn't fail was done, and it was done before the class. Hare Krishna. Okay, so let's go back to, we are going to finish shortly. I know it's already time. We lost about 6 minutes there, so my apologies for that. But we will finish very shortly, very, very quickly. Just let me just share the screen again. And here it is. Okay. So we read this, the implicit interaction. Okay. So the remaining verses in this section describing the gradual evolution of the Virat Purusha is narrated with the intention of emphasizing our complete dependence on the Supreme Being. Okay, the living entity can see only when the Lord sees. The living entity can smell when the Lord smells, and so on. The idea is that the living entity cannot do anything independently. He can simply think of doing something independently, but he cannot act independently. This independence in thinking is there by the grace of the Lord. But the thinking can be given shape by the grace of the Lord, and therefore the common saying is that man proposes and God disposes. The whole explanation is on the subject of the absolute dependence of the living entities and absolute independence of the Supreme Lord. Okay. So now the last section of this chapter is explaining how the Lord is situated beyond the material covenants, and that will lead into the connection with the third canto. So I have a few quotes. The separated material energy of the personality of Godhead is covered by 8 kinds of material coverings: earth, water, fire, air, sky, man, intelligence, and false ego. All these are emanations from the personality of Godhead as his external energy. These coverings are just like the coverings of clouds of the sun. The cloud is the creation of the sun, yet it actually covers the eyes so that one cannot see the sun. The sun cannot be covered by the clouds. Therefore, one of the various energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot, of course, cover the Lord, but these coverings are created by him to cover the eyes of the conditioned souls who want to lord it over material nature. So coming to the end of the, basically, okay, let's read the last few verses from this chapter, and then we'll complete the unit. So we'll go to verse 35, and I'm going to stop sharing the screen at this moment. Okay. There is no direct engineering for the creation by the Lord. For the
number is 35?
45.
Thank you.
Then there is no direct engineering by the Lord for the creation and destruction of the material world. What is described in the Vedas about his direct interference is simply to counteract the idea that the material nature is the creator. So a very important metaphor is given in this purport, and is famous from the Vedas. It's called, the philosophy of Aja Gala Sthana Nyaya, the logic of, okay, I'll read directly. It says, the material nature has no separate existence without the Lord. Therefore, setting aside the Supreme Lord as the cause of all causes is the logic of Aja Gala Sthana Nyaya, or trying to milk the nipples on the neck of a goat. The nipples on the neck of a goat may seem like sources of milk, but to try to get milk from such nipples will be foolish. So the idea is the material energy cannot act without the intervention of the Lord. This is what is being described here, and Bhagavatam is used the 3 Purushas, Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika, Adhidaivika Purushas, and how the material energy can only act when the Lord activates the material energy. When the Lord desires to do something, the material energy is moved in a particular way. So it removes the misconception, the idea that, material nature is the cause of the living entities, is the cause of the creation. This is what the modern scientific theories present, that, everything came by nature, by combination of the material elements, maybe some explosion, Big Bang, this and that. But The Bhagavatam refutes the idea, and the example here is like, to think that the material energy can create anything is as foolish as to think that you can get milk out of the nipples of a goat in the neck, you know? It's foolish. So this is explained here. Now, text 46. This process of creation and annihilation described in summary herein is the regulative principle during the duration of Brahma's one's day. It is also the regulative principle in the creation of Mahat, in which the material nature is dispersed. So yeah, these verses 36 to 47 describe actually Visarga. Now, O king, I shall in due course explain the measurements of time in its gross and subtle features with the specific symptoms of each. But for the present, let me explain unto you the Padma Kalpa. Now, last few verses is a connection with the third canto. Sonaka Rishi, after hearing all about the creation, inquired from Sutta Goswami about Vidura. For Sutta Goswami had previously informed him how Vidura left home. Where? Earlier in the first canto, leaving aside all his relatives who were very difficult to leave. It's a very beautiful pastime when we hear that Vidura was, thrown out of the palace. Well, basically he left actually, but Dhritarashtra had called for him to get his advice, and the Kauravas that were there, including Duryodhan, and Duryodhan, was very insulted him. He said, "Who is this kept son of a mistress? Throw him out of the palace, leaving only with his breath." And Vidura, he actually did what we have been talking about. He didn't see that. He took this as the mercy of the Lord. He was involved in all the temple politics. He was acting as an advisor. And he saw that this is an opportunity for him to leave all the intrigues of the palace. So without saying a word, he put his bow and arrow outside the door, and he left on pilgrimage. And he was out on pilgrimage for like 38 years. He never saw Krishna again. He never saw Krishna again. He thought, I'm going, and he went on pilgrimage to purify himself from all the, all the politics that he had been involved. And the beautiful thing about this, and you're going to see this in the third canto, is that Vidura actually entered into the heart of Krishna, because, and again, I will kind of say that, Vidura saw that as Krishna's mercy, but by his behavior, by the way he responded to the situation, he gained Krishna's mercy, so that when Krishna was leaving this world, he was thinking of him. We are trained, we are told to think of Krishna at the time of death. So who is that personality that when Krishna is leaving this world, he's thinking of? That's Vidura. And you're going to be introduced to Vidura in the third canto. Very beautiful. So then Shonaka Rishi wants to hear about what happened to him, and that's going to be explained in the third canto. Shonaka Rishi said, let us know, please, what topics were discussed between Vidura and Maitreya, who talk on transcendental subjects, and what was inquired by Vidura and replied by Maitreya. Also, please let us know the reason for Vidura's giving up the connection of his family members and why he again came home. Please also let us know the activities of Vidura while he was in the places of pilgrimage. Sisuta Goswami explained, I shall now explain to you the very subjects explained by the great sage in answer to King Parikshit's inquiries. Please hear them attentively. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, second canto ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Bhaktivaibhava
Hari
ki
Bo.
jai. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. I
Hello,
was without the
thank you, Prabhu.
internet, without the interruption of the internet, I was 10 minutes late. So
No, no, we are greatly thankful to you on behalf of Mayapur Institute and all the students that you were ready to go beyond and explain in detail very much. And all the devotees and the students in this class are particularly enjoying your session. And it was so nectarian. And we would love to thank you for that, for extending your mercy and irrespective of your time schedule, giving your mercy and blessing to all the students. Thanks a lot, Prabhu.
My pleasure. Your mercy upon me to engage me in this service. So thank you very much, all of you, for taking seriously the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. The unit is finished here. Now, if you wish to share something, you can go. And thank you all for tolerating me. Forgive me if I offended you in any way. But if you have a little more time, if you wish to share something of these chapters of the Srimad Bhagavatam, like I told you at the beginning, that we're collecting jewels from the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So if there is anything that particularly you found that touched your heart and you want to share it with the rest of the class, you may type that on the chat box, or you may just share it verbally. And it's just nice to hear that. But if you need to go, please go, no problem.
Prabhu, I'd like to make one announcement before they share.
Okay.
Is as usual on Saturday with the same timings for this unit. Coming Saturday, same timings. I'll put it in the group also, because if people are going to go, please note that your CBA is on the coming Saturday. Thank you. Please share what Prabhu is wanting for.
Okay, we have nice appreciation from the devotees. I deeply appreciate. Thank you very much for your kind words. They mean a lot to me. So thank you for that. Rajshekhar, Prabhu.
I learned it very nicely about the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam and emphasis on Abhijay that I learned very much. Abhijay part is very important for me.
Which part? Sorry, I missed it.
Abhijay part of the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam.
Chaturshloki, nice. Thank you. Okay, Vinay Damodar, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandatam. Thank you, Prabhu, for such a wonderful sessions. And I particularly enjoyed the thing of realization of God in all your session, where you were saying that if God don't reveal us, we can't go ahead. So that gives so much conviction and so much realization and so much strength to go forward in Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Vinay Damodar, Prabhu. Okay, Murari, Prabhu.
Yes. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I thank you very much for your wonderful explanation. I like very much how you explained that the necessity of hearing process and how we can get away to, not get away, have a way in this way to hear from all the devotees and have association with them when we are hearing and when we are asking them question when we are hearing, you know. So, and that we should also relish the Srimad Bhagavatam, to learn to relish the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I feel it very important myself.
Thank you, Murari Prabhu. Karuna Tara Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the very, very inspiring class. And I really felt in love with Srimad Bhagavatam more by following what you said. And I will show you that I will imbibe all what you have said, try to imbibe all what you have said in my life also.
Thank you. My service was successful. If you fell more in love with Bhagavatam, that's the goal. Thank you. Mahavira Rupa Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, kindly forgive me for asking too many questions. And your explanations, actually, it increased my love for God. Actually, I would say that in a nutshell, to be concise, that your responses to my queries, it uh, gave me so much realization. And it is not like you mentioned yesterday about Gyan and Vigyan. Like one is knowledge, like I can read Bhagavatam on my own, but I cannot get realization. So because of your teaching, I got the realization, realized knowledge. I would have taken some 40, 50 years, maybe I would have died also, but I could never have realized those knowledge, those jewels of knowledge which you gave by responding to my queries, which probably is due to the fact that I do not have knowledge of the subject matter. So kindly forgive me, Prabhuji.
It's been a pleasure to have you, Mahavira Prabhu. Thank you so much for being an active participant. And your questions were all valid. There was no irrelevancy or, it was very nice. Thank you. I hope I said it was satisfying. Thank you. Veera Gopal Prabhu.
Pranams Prabhuji. First of all, want to thank you for such amazing presentations, very evocative. And also for the first time, Canto 2, actually I was dreading it because I tried to read it many times, go through it, but I always struggled. And I think the way you presented it was, gave a very beautiful connection with it. So I wanted to thank you for that. And one thing that touched my heart really was, one, your commitment to the way you were desiring for us to relish this very technical, I would say, part of Srimad Bhagavatam, and also in the same way, how much compassion and love Krishna actually has, that he is going through every minute detail that we can ever imagine to connect us with him through all of this. I mean, this really touched my heart. So thank you once again.
Very nice. Thank you. Wonderful. Amala Manjari.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you so much, Prabhu. I really have no words to express, because the more I was feeling more the consciousness that you were sharing. The love for Srimad Bhagavatam, and I can say the transformation in me, Srimad Bhagavatam. I want to read Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the only thought all through the day. And then, I'm feeling bad that I've not used the opportunities so much to study Srimad Bhagavatam. So I've read it, but not studied till now. So thank you so much. I really cannot express my gratitude to you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And all the realizations that you shared as well.
Actually, I was thinking about this today because, to be honest with you, I mean, I wouldn't share it because I would set a bad example, or maybe another example. But I can go on for hours, sometimes studying. And I was thinking that that this is where I got my use, actually, from studying the Bhagavatam more than from reading it, because but this is my personal thing. It's not something that I usually share, because reading Prabhupada's book is wonderful. But I generally, for myself, like I started this morning at 4 o'clock, it's 3:30. And, I can go on until the rest of the day. And it's just like, but I could not read for such long. I can't. Even to read for 1 hour solid is kind of hard, or 2 hours. But when it's studying, I can go on for a lot longer. I mean, I do read for more than an hour usually, but the thing is that kind of, trying to join the dots and seeing what Prabhupada is trying to say and trying to understand. That's what I find it very, 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 relishing and enriching, like that. Thank you, Gopala Ganashraya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisance. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful sessions. I really enjoyed all the sessions and also your realizations about the Bhagavatam and your own applying the principle in your own life. the point which struck me is that, yesterday when we were discussing about pain seeking and penance exercise, that pain seeking means putting attention to the details. So that
Yeah.
was really touching. Thank you,
Nice.
Prabhu.
Very good. That's a very important point. Okay, Jamastami wrote, the point really touched me. Why then will there not be severe types of penance for the perfection of devotional service? An easygoing life and attainment of perfection in transcendental realization cannot go together. The Lord is more clever than any living entity. Therefore, he wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. The order is received from the Lord, either directly or through the bona fide spiritual master. And to execute that order, however painstaking, is the severe type of penance. One who follows the principle rigidly is sure to achieve success in attaining the Lord's mercy. Wonderful closing. I always remember this verse. I remember when I joined the temple, that they say that if you could make it through the second canto, then you had a chance to complete the Bhagavatam. But the second canto had that kind of reputation of being very hard to get through. Veera Gopal was mentioning that. But actually, when you study the second canto, it's really nice. The first 3 chapters of the second canto are like really amazing, and these last chapters are also very nice. And in between, also, once you kind of penetrate into it, it's nice. So many nice quotes. So once again, I thank you all very much, and I deeply appreciate the fact that you are taking the study of the Srimad Bhagavatam seriously, and I wish you all the best for the remaining sections. The next unit, in fact, is just totally different to this unit. It's just very sweet. It's Krishna's pastimes. It's much easier, So you can relax, the intellect, and just get yourself absorbed in the description of Krishna's pastimes. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granta Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitagora Pramanande, Hari
Krishna
Bol.
Prabhuji, just one more thing I wanted to share, if you allow.
Mahavira Prabhu, yeah, please.
Yeah, actually, you mentioned one powerful realization that actually opened my eyes. I used to distribute books, and nobody used to take from me. Even for full day, I used to stand in a scorching heat, and nobody used to take any book. But as your realization said that it is Krishna's way of showing mercy, and nobody taking book from me, and from others they are distributing 25 books, 50 books, and my score is 0 on a daily basis. So I used to feel, what is the problem with me? I'm not able to distribute even a single book. So it was basically my ego, and that Krishna was trying to belittle my ego with this kind of treatment. So I understood after you shared this realization. So I'm very, very grateful to you, Prabhu.
Well, I'll add that, and remember, I was a Sankirtan leader for many years, okay? That then that's not good enough. You have to get someone who knows how to distribute books to teach you how to do it.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, and learn it's a technique. You have your heart, but you need to learn the technique. And if you apply the technique, you can distribute the books and not just spend the whole day there. You get tough days, but every day not distributing books, it means you need to make an adjustment. It's not just your ego and this and that. That's there also, but it means that we are not doing it properly, and you need to learn. And I heard Jamastami Prabhu's lines. They are infallible, so you can get a few lines from him and put them in practice. I had devotees with me who were doing no books, and they tripled their scores because just I told them what to do. It's a technique, it's a way to do it.
Yes,
so it is your duty, paying attention to the detail doesn't mean that I stay there the whole day and don't improve. No, you need to learn the technique.
Yes, Prabhuji, I will surely learn the technique as advised by you.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you, Radhika Nagar Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guru.